Very humbling to stand up here in front of so many professionals, so you'll have to bear with me because I am a little bit nervous. So if my voice gets a little bit shaky, just bear with me. But I know I have the support of my team over here in the, on the left. So first of all, I just want to say, about 5-6 years ago, I was at a conference similar to this, and I was just conscious of the fact that, you know, there were so many fantastic presentations being made and speakers, and there was nothing to do with disability. And at the time, I spoke to the organising committee, and I said, how come there's no representatives around disability? And they said, well, we don't actually have a budget for disability. And it kind of really took me back and shocked me a little bit. And myself and Anne had several conversations afterwards around, do you really need a budget for disability? And I have to now take this opportunity to say a massive thank you to Anne, because she has really championed the disability voice in Donegal in particular. So, well done. I'd also like to thank Brendan, who has been so receptive, innovative, creative, and leading us in terms of making sure that there is a space for inclusion in CYPSC and in particular in Tusla. So well done. And thank you, Bernard, as well for being here. I think it's amazing that that leadership is there and that drive is there to make sure we have an inclusive space. I'd also like to just say one more thank you, and I know we're getting very close to lunch, so I don't want to overindulge. I want to say a huge thank you to Marie Crawley and the PPFS team for believing in us, supporting us, and, you know, putting us out there in the front line in terms of delivery of services. So thank you to you as well. Okay, the Bluestack model of alternative care for children and young people with additional needs. So I want to just give you a family perspective. So my name is Wendy McCarry, and I'm the CEO of the Bluestack Special Needs Foundation. But more importantly, I am a mother of 5 children. One of them, Ava, my little girl Ava, is 16. And Ava has epilepsy, cerebral palsy, intellectual disability, delayed swallow, cortical vision impairment, scoliosis, lazy bowel syndrome. The list just goes on and on. And just like other families, she is our world. My hands are shaking, guys. I can't even push this on. Can I get a button presser up here or something? Okay, so to set the scene, and I know some of you, bear with me, because some of you have heard me talk before, and it doesn't get any easier every time I do it, but some of you have heard me speak before, and you may see these slides that you've seen before. And I think this is just to really set the scene, and to tell you what it feels like to be a parent of a child with a disability. So I think the hardest part of caring for a child with additional needs of any kind is the fight. The fight for services, the fight for understanding, the fight for acceptance, the fight for inclusion, the fight for knowledge, and the fight just to be heard. The most frightening part is that isolated, lonely, panic-stricken, quiet fight you have with yourself as a parent and carer, wondering if you've left no stone unturned. From the child, parent, family perspective, despite our inner turmoil, we are parents first. And despite our children's extra needs, they are children first. And despite our chaos, we are a family first. So what we do in the Bluestack Special Needs Foundation, we originally started in 2002 when a local family, the McBearty family, had a little girl with Down syndrome, Anya. And Anya is here today and she's going to be singing. And her dad decided that for his 40th birthday, rather than have a birthday party, which we were all doing at that time, he was going to get 40 friends to walk 40 kilometres and raise 40,000 for people with disabilities to make sure that they had access to the relevant supports and services they needed so that they could reach their potential. And we did this between 2002 and 2006. And we originally just raised the money and dispersed the money to other organisations who were involved in disability services. But by 2006, we quickly realised that the access to those services, despite the money raised, was not really improving. So we decided in 2006 to set up the Bluestack Special Needs Foundation to actually address this lack of service provision head on. And one of the first things that we did was we did a research study with the HSE across all the families and carers in Donegal to find out what did they want. And I suppose there were a number of lessons that came out of it. Number one, people needed a place, a non-judgmental place. People needed to learn from each other. And I suppose that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned as a parent. I've learned more from other parents than I have, with no disrespect to professionals, but I've learned more from other parents in terms of coping strategies, in terms of resources, than I have from any professional I've dealt with. And you've seen the list of concerns and challenges that Ava has, so you can imagine we've come across a lot of professionals in our time. People still need support, and not just disability-specific support, but services such as family support. They are still a family. And generic supports that we offer, and we've had many a discussion about this, Brendan, around the TUSLA services that are offered. Generic supports sometimes just need a little bit of tweaking to make them more relevant to our families and our families' needs. And we need to start to think outside the box and look for alternative models of care. I'm going to have to read this. So just to give you a few statistics about us, I didn't realize the text was so small. So we have essentially 370 families that are registered with us that we provide services to. Approximately 130 of those families use more than one service, and I'll be going through the services in a minute. Regardless of whether the disability is profound, mild, moderate, we will work with the family. So we are not a disability-specific organisation. Some people say, do you work with people with autism or Down syndrome? We honestly don't care. We are not interested in anybody's label. We're interested in the young person, the child, or the young adult that we're working with and their family. We believe that having a child with additional needs increases our stress, and it increases our need for resources. So this just gives you an idea of the organisation as we have grown. And again, it's very small, but basically we now have 4 divisions within our organisation. We have 36 staff. We're due to employ another one. So we've 35 staff, and we have roughly 80 volunteers who work with us across different departments and programs that we work with. So at the moment, we have a wraparound package, and we work with TUSLA and the HSE, and that has really started very, very small, and it has grown to the point where we now work with 46 families, providing a range of wraparound services, and I'll go into them in more detail. We have internal programs and supports that we offer, and we offer them both here in Donegal town, in Letterkenny, and now we're offering them in Falcarra as well, and we're hoping to open a new service in Letterkenny in the very near future. We also have the community services programme, and I suppose if there's one thing that COVID has taught us is, for years we have been reliant on fundraising to try and make sure that we can provide the services we provide. And the days of shaking the bucket on the street are very limited. And COVID has really taught us that we have to look externally, we have to think creatively around how do we generate income so that we can be sustainable? How can we make sure that we continue beyond the COVID pandemic or whatever it is, that we can actually move beyond that? So the final program then that we have is what we call the Training and Progression Program. And Emer's going to be talking a little bit about that in a minute. So the wraparound packages, basically what we do is we offer respite to families. I suppose one of the things that, I suppose our families have always kind of depended upon is the respite that's offered through the HSE. But sometimes just having short-term respite really makes a difference. If you know that every Saturday morning you have an opportunity to drop your child with additional needs off, go and do your shopping, take one of the other children swimming, or do something else with your partner, go for a walk on the beach. If you know you have that regular short-term respite, that's very important. So we have a number of outreach respite workers who go out into homes, and they have 4 basic functions. They offer respite to the families, they offer support with the home-based therapeutic intervention. So to give you an example, my own daughter goes to physiotherapy. We have, she might see her every 6 months. We have a home-based program that we have to put in place, a half an hour of exercise every night. Sometimes it gets done, sometimes it doesn't get done, depending on how tired she is or how tired I am. So the outreach respite workers can actually work with the family to implement the guidance from, say, speech and language therapy, occupation therapy, physiotherapy in the home environments. They also work on their social engagement and community involvement skills. We hear all the time from our families, they've no friends. They find it very difficult to make friends. They can't sustain relationships. So that social engagement piece is extremely important. Our children aren't the ones that are in the GAA club. They're not the ones that are down doing piano lessons or drum lessons or going to play dates. That's not our children. Very often the community facilities are not equipped with the resources for inclusion. So social engagement is really important. Life skills and progressing independence. So every time we're working with a young person, we're always looking at how can we improve their independence. That's the ultimate game. Wherever that will lead them to or however far that can reach, progressing independence is really important. The wraparound package also includes access to play therapy, psychotherapy and counselling, and behavioural support. Then we have our internal programmes and supports, and we have a whole range of them. So we have a Saturday club in Donegal Town and Falcara, this is a drop and collect service. We have an after school service. We have a teen club. We have the Bluestack choir, which you'll be hearing a little bit about in a minute. We have emergency respite that we continue to deliver right through COVID. So we finished on the 12th of March 2020, we closed down for a little while, but we continue to offer services virtually. But then on the 5th of June, we reopened and we went in with our gowns and our masks and our gloves and our everything else, and we tried to make sure that we continue to offer emergency respite. We have summer camps, we have a parent support network, we have information dissemination. We did the Directory of Disability Services with the team in CYPSC. We lobby for equality, advocacy. We have a fully disabled facility over in Donegal Town. And one of the most important services I think we offer is that listening ear. Our community services programme then has been running for the last 2 years. And they have 4 functions. So basically the community services programme is that element of our organisation that looks at income generation. So we, on the 17th of March, are opening our new coffee shop, which will be the Bluestack Shack, which is a coffee shop in our back garden that's going to be run and managed by our team of young adults with physical, sensory and intellectual disabilities. So we're really excited about that. And if any of you are in Donegal Town, I hope you will pop in for your cappuccino or whatever it is takes you, or your latte, whatever takes your fancy. We also do room rental of our facility. We do disability awareness training that we're just putting together now. And we have a Help in Hands programme. It's similar to the Care and Repair programme, where if you have a young person or a family with a disability, we will provide volunteers to go out and do odd jobs in the home. We particularly find this relevant, say for example, where we have single parent families, where they may have multiple children with disabilities and find it very, difficult and expensive to access the necessary supports in that regard. We also have the Training and Progression programme, and a lot of our team here are actually on that programme. And I suppose we're acutely aware of the lack of services for young adults. We invest so much in our young people from 4 to 18 in terms of their development, in terms of their life skills, and they hit 18 and it's like they fall off a cliff. So our progression programme is really looking at how do we support young adults to move into enterprise, starting their own business, going back to education, or indeed looking at employment opportunities. So why is our model an alternative model of care? I suppose the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, while difficult, allowed the organisation to re-strategise its operational practice and become more responsive to the needs expressed by our member families. The biggest lesson we have taken from the COVID experience is the concept of listening, hearing and responding. When we are asked what we do, we have a comprehensive list of services and supports, as you've just heard, but this does not define us. What defines us is our capacity and flexibility despite the funding constraints that we face, to hear what our families need on the ground and to respond accordingly. So we look forward to a bright future. Thank you.